we go.
Hey, yo, what it is and what's good, y'all? Welcome back to 280 Plus, the social media podcast where I take the conversations off the timeline and go beyond the posts. I'm your host, Lowe's Def, and I'm back here for episode 214 of the platform. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. If you're brand new to the channel, I'd like you to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you want to join the conversation, leave a comment below. If you know anybody that's interested in the comment, I need you to hit that share button. But either way, turn on that bell for notifications so you can stay up to date with what we got going on here on the platform. So happy to be here again for another week with y'all. And this week, man, I'm excited, man. We got a couple different cool topics we're going to talk about. Let's see. Let me look at my agenda today. All right, so today we're gonna have some social media reactions. We're gonna react to a couple different topics that just kind of piqued my interest this week in social media. One has to do with something that I kind of do every day a little bit, and that's speeding. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about speeding and kind of the implications of that. We're going to talk about a little bit about intuition, all right, intuition versus anxiety, and the video I'm going to react to. So it talks about the difference between the two, like what is intuition versus what's anxiety, and like how it kind of speaks to us, because both things kind of speak to us. And then we're actually going to talk about, this is an interesting topic I just kind of uncovered, and it's the truth about gossip, right? And like, I know gossip has a very negative connotation, but like the way this content creator is kind of spinning it, I kind of see where he's coming from a little bit. And we're going to talk about how it's something that actually everyone does, whether they whether they agree with it or whether they try to admit that they don't. Everybody does a little bit of gossip, right? So we're going to get into that. I have a review so those are like three little topics in that overall arching theme of social media reactions. Then I finally finished Monster, right? The Ed Gein story. So we're going to talk about the Ghoul of Plainfield, right? Ed Gein. We're going to talk a bunch about this show. We're going to talk about just my general reaction of what I thought of the show. We're going to talk about how it's tied and inspired all these different horror films that they talk about. We're going to talk about the main actor, Charlie Hunnam. We're going to talk about his performance. We're going to talk about how this show speaks to the climate of society. And we also are going to kind of debunk what the show got right and what the show got wrong. Okay, because I know sometimes with some of these biopic shows, some people get a little bit upset, especially if they are like staunch historians of the particular topic. Some people like myself, I don't really get into that too much, especially when it's this kind of topic, because it's like, well, it's still all bad either way. Like the person was all bad, but we are going to get into some of the things that were actually true about Ed Gein and his depiction, and what actually did not happen that was shown in this Netflix series. And then we're gonna finish it off with talking about the Packers troubles, man. The Packers troubles. So so the Packers dropped another one this past Monday night to the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're gonna get into like what's going wrong with the team, and like what can they do to try to improve, right? What can they do to try to improve? So if you're watching, man, I appreciate you. Stay tuned. We got all these good topics. Just in general, man, y'all heard about, that shutdown is over. The government shutdown is over. I know we talked about in last week's episode, we talked a little bit about SNAP benefits and food stamps. And we're not going to get into all that. We're not going to get into whose fault, who caved, whatever, but the shutdown is over. The shutdown's over. So I am happy that some people get a sense of relief. Hopefully, people that were affected, they get paid. Hopefully, the people that were affected, that need extra help, hopefully they're getting that extra help in the form of SNAP benefits and things like that. So I'm glad for this on one hand, but on the other hand, we know that there are some political implications, and there's some promises that have not been made, that could affect us in the future, and it could be leverage. It could be leverage for one party. You know what I mean? So one of the parties is going to use this as leverage against the other. Hopefully, for the sake of I would just say for the sake of me, it's the side that I'm rocking with. Hopefully they have the leverage and we can start to see some things changed in our country. I say that. I'm gonna keep it real on the fence and real neutral on this because I don't wanna I don't need to like this is not a political podcast. I know I do talk about certain topics, but we're not gonna get into that because I don't really have I'll admit that sometimes I have the depth to talk about it with friends and family sometimes, but like I don't have the time, patience, or depth and research to really dive into it this week. Sometimes, some weeks I do, but this week it's like, all right, man, I'm kind of just I'm entertaining myself for other things right now. I'm not really getting into all that, man. I do be needing some escapist television and things like that, right? So we're gonna get into a couple things here. So let's start by sharing some videos. All right, so let me go to my Instagram. And the first video we're gonna react to actually has to do with speeding. All right, so and this I think this is I think I ain't gonna lie. I feel like this person's opinion is a little bit ridiculous when it comes to this topic because I think there's a lot of things that are missing kind of in this equation. So this guy, he's gonna give like his little logical explanation as to why you shouldn't speed, all right, and why it's pointless. That's his premise. Like speeding is pointless. And so I'm gonna give you my reaction as to like, yeah, I'm gonna just give you my reaction and then we'll we'll go from there. So yeah, so let's see what he talking about. Make sure I share the sound here. Did I share it? It's going fast. Okay, yep, it is shared. All right, let's get into it. Speeding is pointless. All right, stop lying to yourself. Here we go.
not only pointless, but it is so overrated. What's the rush? I mean, if you do the math, if you're going 10 miles an hour faster for like a half hour, you gain 2 minutes. Guess what? 2 minutes can get eaten up just like that at one light. So,
Don't do it.
speeding is not only
That's a quick video. So not only pointless, he said
pointless, but it is so overrated.
he's saying it's oh so overrated. All right. So here's the problem with this premise, right? So this is a to me, I think I ain't trying fuck all that. Like I ain't trying to hear none of that type of stuff, right? So on one hand, and he's talking about traffic lights and things like that. So I guess it depends on where you're speeding. So if you are speeding in an area where there are traffic lights, yeah, you probably are drawing a little bit. Like you know what I mean? It probably doesn't make any sense to get like two or three cars ahead of somebody that's at a light, you know. However, most speeding actually occurs on the highway, and I would say that speeding is a necessary evil sometimes, right? So I've talked about this on the show, right? So like I do have a little bit of road rage, and my pet peeve is just people that stay in the left lane, right? So again, speeding it might be sometimes it is haphazard, but however, if everybody is moving fastly, you know, if everyone's moving pretty swiftly, then the traffic flows a lot better, right? So the thing is with speeding, it's like my thing is this. There are times where I gotta get to where I need to get to, right? And my whole thing is just like stay out of the left lane. So I commute to work, right? Half hour one way. So yeah, I mean altogether I'm on the road about an hour a day, right? So my thing is this, what I've been noticing now that I do commute to work, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, is that now I'm starting to see people that get like stubborn, like and they stay in the left lane. Like there'll be time because you're not supposed to pass on the right side. You're only supposed to pass on the left side. So, but like I noticed that there are some people that are gracious and they will get out the way. And then there's some people that just be like, I feel like they're being the police almost. Like they are being Karens almost. Like they are being the ones that are like, uh-uh, I'm going as fast as I'm supposed to go. So like you need to slow down. And to me, my reaction to that is like, yo, this is not your job to do this, right? Let me get pulled over. If that's what my fate is gonna be, then let me get pulled over, dog. Like, I do not need you in my way. Do not police me. Do not police my driving. Please get out the way. And I keep the same energy. If I feel somebody is on my tail, right? And I feel like there's adequate space here that I can get over, right? Like, I'm not gonna get stuck behind, because that's the thing too. Sometimes you do feel somebody on your tail, right? And then you thinking like, I'll get out their way. But like, if you get out of their way, you hurt yourself, because now you're stuck behind all these cars that you would have normally passed, and then a bunch of cars pass you, right? I'm not talking about those situations. Like, sometimes people do got suck it up. Even me. Like, I'm keeping the same energy. Like, sometimes I understand. Like, I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to tailgate you or nothing like that. But I understand, like, all right, you can't get over yet. It be the instances where like it's clear, and I don't want to pass on the red side if I don't have to. I don't want to do that. I want you to kind of get out the way, whatever, and then you can come back in the lane. I get out of people's way all the time, right? So my that's my pet peeve. It's like, all right, sure, if you don't want to speed, if you think speeding is overrated, then I hope that you are driving in the right lane, because the left lane is for passing. Now, I live in a place where I don't really have an expressway, so it's like it's a two-lane highway. You know what I mean? It's two cars going one direction. Now, there are pockets of my commute where it is more of an expressway, where it's 3 lanes, 4 lanes, but like that's for a very short period of time. That's when it gets a little bit creative, and you can kind of do that. Now, I wish there's where I do have to drive to every morning. I wish it was more of an expressway, or I wish the highway that I'm on, I wish it wasn't so many lights, and that's what kind of what slows you down. So yes, he makes a point where, yeah, if we're talking about like actual city traffic, and we're going through lights and stuff like that. Yes, it's probably not in your best interest to speed. It probably is a lot more dangerous. There might be pedestrians. There's other things in your way. People are trying to parallel park. Buses are stopping and things like that. So yes, yeah, speeding on city traffic is not good. But speeding on the highway, to say it's pointless, the premise is it's only pointless, and what he his point, the only way it holds weight is the fact that you would almost have to know where the person is going. So like, for example, if I was on my commute to work, right, and I happen to see the same car every morning, which I've not seen like similar cars on the highway when I'm driving up here, right, when I'm going to work. So like, if I seen the same car, and then like I'm doing all this maneuvering and dodging them only for them to like get to the same, get to a similar place, then it would be in the way. But to say speeding is pointless is to assume that everybody has to be at the same place at the same time, and that everybody is going the same distance, right? And they're going to the same destination, when that couldn't be more than false. Like, you don't know. That's my thing. That's why I move out the way. You do not know why somebody is speeding. Somebody could be speeding to get out of trouble, which, I mean, who am I to? I ain't on no citizens arrest stuff. I'm not helping law enforcement do their job, right? Somebody may have an emergency. Somebody may be running late for work. Somebody may be, I don't know, they may be stressed out and going through things. Whatever it is, it's none of my business. It's none of your business. But you could keep traffic moving and get out of the way. I talk about big trucks being in the left lane. I hate that. That's my pet peeve. My best friend, one of my best friends, is a truck driver, and he talks about it all the time, like how, like, yeah, you know what I mean, y'all be getting mad, but it don't take that long to get past, but it be taking these trucks mad long to pass. The only advice that I've taken from my boy is the fact that, like, what he told me as a truck driver, he said, yo, you know how you could see, like, when you're driving behind a 18 wheeler, right? You know how you can see their side view mirrors, right? So as long as you can see the side view mirrors, they can see you. You should never get too close to a truck, to where, because there's a point where when you get too close to a truck, you can't see them side views no more, and they stick out pretty far. So he said, understand that if you can't see, if you're driving behind a truck and you cannot see their mirrors, that means that you're way too close. So I do try to back up and back away. But my thing is too, I hate when a car is in a truck's blind spot and like they not trying to rush to get past, even though there's space ahead of them. And I'll be like, bro, don't get out of the blind spot. Get out of this truck's blind spot, whatever, so we can all get through, get past. You can get on to your right lane like you belong, and then I'm gonna do my thing. But like to say it's pointless is false. We not all going to the same location. We don't all have to be there at the same time, and we don't all have the same reasons for being on the road in the first place. So don't tell me it's pointless, right? I could have somebody dying in my back seat, right? I could have a pregnant girlfriend or wife. Something could be wrong with my kid. I might be going through something. I might have to use the bathroom, right? And I cannot stop, but I got to keep going. So miss me with that. Speeding is pointless. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. I disagree wholeheartedly. Speed if you need, right? Speed if you need, right? And that's all I got. That's all I got to say about that. So that's our first reaction, right? So he don't know what the fuck he talking about. Second thing, I'm gonna share this other post here. Now this one has to do with anxiety and intuition. And this is just something I kind of thought about real quick. And it was kind of deep. And he made it feel a little bit deeper as well as he was talking about it. But let's uh let's share the screen here for that one too. Here we go. I know where it's at too. Here we go. All right, let's take a look here.
I think
All right. So what he talking about? Here we go. He said,
I'm the only one that's never heard this.
I ain't never heard this either, brother.
Your intuition speaks in statements. Your anxiety speaks in questions. That is damn good. Wow. I like that a lot. I think I'm the only one that's never
Watch it again. Yeah. So hear what he said.
heard this. Your intuition speaks in statements. Your anxiety speaks in questions.
Nah, that's a bar. That's a bar. So your intuition speaks in statements, but your anxiety speaks in questions. So that's the thing when we talk about, we make jokes about this, like woman's intuition, whatever. A lot of times that's not intuition. A lot of times it's anxiety, right? It's doubts. It's a person questioning things about their other partner, and just in general, like it's like you putting those doubts in your head. That's not your intuition. That's not your intuition. Your intuition is not saying like, "Oh my God, I wonder if this person doesn't like me," or "Yo, man, I think this person might be, is this person cheating on me? Is this person lying to me? Am I good enough?" Right? Like that's not your intuition, man. That's your anxiety. Those are your fears. Those are the things that might be holding you back. And sometimes, yeah, speaking of women's intuition, sometimes your fears do be right. Sometimes your anxieties do be right. However, sometimes you might be looking for things that you don't really want to be looking for, also, right? But your intuition is statements. That's the things that you're sure about. Like, I know. I know this person has been lying to me, right? Yeah, I'm saying I know that I deserve this promotion, right? Not am I good enough for this promotion? Are they gonna like me? No, I know I'm the guy for this job, right? I know I can do better. I know, it's those surefire things. That's where your confidence comes in. That's that gut feeling where it's like, yo, I know that something is not right. All right. Now, again, we going back to the other thing, women's intuition. Some women do be on that type of stuff. Like they know something is off. They know something's right. But like is it kind of fueled by the anxiety? Is it fueled by those questions? Or is it the things that they are confidently, they know in their gut that's what's happening, right? So yeah, your intuition is always going to be sure of itself, and you should always listen to your intuition. You should, if you have anxieties, right, and you have fears and you have those questions reeling in your head, I think it's time to step back, but it's also time to kind of dig into and investigate and research and figure out maybe the solutions to whatever it is that you questioning and doubting in yourself, or about your situation or whatever it is, right? All right. So I do agree. I do agree with that. I do wholeheartedly agree with that though. So but yeah, so that's just something to kind of think about when you are having like thoughts in your heads and doubts and things like that. Like where is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of surety, or is it coming from a place of doubt, right? Because yeah, your anxiety is the doubts, your intuition is the confidence that you have in something, right? So that's a cool. I think that's a little bit of a paradigm shift, though. Like I think that's a way to kind of reframe how we think about some things, and I think it's good ultimately. All right, and then our last social media reaction. Let's talk about gossip a little bit, man. So this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a little bit controversial, and I think I ain't gonna lie. I think the speaker, the person that is saying these things is, I mean, you might doubt what they got to say, maybe because what we say, like the don't shoot the messenger, so to speak. That's what I'm gonna say to y'all. Don't shoot the messenger. But like, I see some truth in what he's saying. We're gonna get into like the reasons, right? We're gonna break down some of them reasons. All right, so let's take a look here.
We need to talk about something very controversial: gossip. We've been taught to see gossip as a huge red flag, a toxic behavior, something to literally run away from. And this fear of gossip is keeping people lonely today. But here's the truth: most of us gossip, not because we're cruel, but because it was evolutionarily smart to do it. Here are 3 reasons why we've always done it and why we probably always will do it as a species. Because it's more adaptive than it is destructive. Number 1, gossip actually helps us stay safe. It spreads social information: who's trustworthy, who's generous, who might harm us. In small groups, this was literally survival data. Number 2, gossip builds connection. Sharing social stories, yes, even the juicy ones, can build intimacy and a sense of us. It's a form of social bonding. One anthropologist actually compares it to primates who pick bugs off of one another, and she calls gossip verbal grooming.
Verbal
And number
grooming. I
3,
like that.
gossip reinforces group values. When we talk about others' behavior, we're also clarifying what's okay and what's not. It's a way of enforcing social norms without direct conflict. And of course, gossip can be harmful when it's cruel or mean-spirited, but the majority of the time, it doesn't even come close. Most of the time, it's just humans being humans, trying to connect, learn, and belong. So I encourage you not to confuse connection for cruelty, and by all means, do not let the fear of gossip keep you isolated. We need to talk about something.
That's a bar. The last thing. Don't let the fear of gossip keep you isolated. So that person, that content creator, he calls himself the loneliness doctor. So this guy is dealing with, I guess, dealing with people that, in some frame of reference, they're lonely, they're isolated, and things like that. So the fear of gossip is keeping people lonely. And so I like what he said. It's he's saying that it's more adaptive than it is destructive. So I think the word itself does have a negative connotation, because you hear that word gossip, and you think that people are bad talking one another, right? You think people are bad talking one another. You think people are tearing each other down, and yes, that does go down. That does go down. And it also is something that people make it seem like it's only something that females do, or messy females do. But it's something that we actually all do, right? All those stories that we tell about our friends, and even in a positive, is gossip, essentially, right? It's not, it does have this negative connotation. And we probably typically say we're calling it something else. When it is positive, we're calling it something else. We're not even calling it gossip. But like, what he's saying is very true, right? So um, he says, here's what social science tells us. So the first thing he said, gossip keeps us safe. It spreads social information about who is trustworthy and who might harm us. Survival data in small groups. Um, okay, it's survival. It's basically, it serves as survival data in small groups. So yeah, bro, man, I've been on social media for for a while now. You know what I'm saying? Over, over a decade, I would say. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, for a while, probably since the end of high school, right? Bruh, man, I ain't gonna hold you, man. Yo, sometimes it be messy when it be like public, and that's the thing that's different too. Like when people are just like kind of smearing people's name on social media and stuff like that, and like it's like a forum, like that's not what we talking about. We talking about like the stuff that you saying with your friends. Now that is a form of it. That is a form of it. I think the online gossip stuff is a little bit nasty and like weird, whatever, and it does lend itself to tearing people down. However, when you're with your friends and things like that, bro, it does keep people safe. You know how many times, right? I live in a smaller city. You know how many times that there was rumors that somebody caught something, somebody was burning, whatever. And, sometimes, yeah, again, you see that stuff on social media and then they don't be exposing nobody. And then it's like, then what happens is like, yo, you show it to your friend and you be like, whether it's a female or male, you be like, yo, who is they talking about? And the thing is, if we just knew, if we don't have those conversations, we don't know those things because, and it could put us in harm's way, whatever. Like, yeah, man, it be like, yes, I don't need you to violate HIPAA publicly, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, but like if you know some information about somebody that could be beneficial to me, then spill it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, let me know because I won't, people won't make certain decisions. Yeah, I'm not going to make it about me. People won't make certain decisions if they knew the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like it does keep you safe. That's how you know about like when me and the bros is talking. That's how you know about people that's robbing people. That's how you know about people that's scamming other people. And like some people might I actually had a friend that something happened to him, right? And he told me about it. You know what I'm saying? And it was something that was kind of kept in our circle. And then when my friend finally confronted this man about the situation in which my friend was wronged, right? He was wronged in that situation. The dude that wronged him was only worried about the fact that he told other people. You know what I mean? Like he told his friends about what happened. And he like, bro, that's not even the point. Like the dude was trying to spin it and was basically like, yo, nah, you gonna tell this person this, you gonna he like, yeah, bro, these is my niggas. Like, but also too, that's helpful information because I don't want to be in somebody's face, smiling in somebody's face if they wrong my friend. You know what I'm saying? If they did something dirty to my friend, if they did something that was like just grimy and rude, like I don't want to be associated with that person. So like, yeah, sometimes we gotta spread certain information so we know who to trust, who to stay away from, who we don't rock with no more, right? Because I try not to be a fake friend, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be kikiing with somebody that you know, kick my friends back in or just did something like backdoor them in some way. Like I don't want to be a part of that. So like, yes, we gotta chop it up. And yes, it might come off as gossip or it is gossip, but like so what, right? So it keeps us safe, right? Second thing it says, gossip builds connection, sharing stories, even the lighthearted ones creates intimacy and belonging. Anthropologists call it verbal grooming, the human version of primates picking bugs off each other. So yeah, so this idea that it does build connections. And yes, like again, the lighthearted stories when you telling people about other people's successes, right? When you're telling people about other people's marriage, like just the things that they're celebrating, their accomplishments, the marriages that they have, the kids that they have, right? Something that happened with their kids, like anything that their kids might have accomplished, or things that are just kind of going on with money and finances and things like that. But like this, these stories that we're sharing with one another, it helps us to build connection with one another, right? It's a way to have camaraderie, but also what it does, it kind of gives us something to kind of maybe sometimes aspire to, right? Like sometimes you have to know what it is, or you got to know something is possible for you to even pursue it, right? So if me and a bunch of friends are talking, and then we heard about a homie or a dude that we kind of know that started a business, right? And then like one of us knows a little bit more information, like, oh yeah, well he did this and he did this, whatever. That's not a bad thing. That's like letting us know, like, oh no, this is possible. It helps us to know even who we need to call in certain situations, like if we need a certain service or we need certain merchandise, or we need help with something. Like it creates a community of what we know of who are people. Yeah, again, it goes back to the first thing, like people that are trustworthy, and it lets us know those different things. So yeah, like ain't nothing wrong with that. And again, people are sharing these war stories and they life stories all the time. People talk up their friends and talk about their stories all the time, and there ain't nothing wrong with that, man. It helps us. It's a way to sharpen the iron a little bit, right? And then the last thing he says, gossip reinforces values. When we talk about others' behavior, we're also defining what's acceptable in our community without direct conflict. Yeah, so like, a lot of times people be talking about how like, yeah, man, this person don't raise their kids, or like, yo, you shouldn't be friends with somebody that's doing this, that's doing that. Like, yes, sometimes it is bad stuff, whatever, but like, yeah, I kind of want to know like the people that I'm associating with, if they hit women, or if I'm talking about a man, if they a deadbeat dad, or if we talking about if we talking about the opposite sex, or other people, like we need to know what behaviors are good, or what behaviors are not good. Online, we see so many people that are like zealots, you know what I'm saying, or like they be preaching, and then but deep down we know that this person ain't living what they talking about, whatever. But like that helps us to build our own social value, as to like, nah, we don't want to be like that. Like it might not even be about the person, but it's about that entity. So man, we be finding, man, we talking about politics, man, we be finding out that certain people have certain belief systems and stuff like that, and they make it do raise the eyebrow sometimes, and sometimes you might be like, oh no, I can't rock with that person, but like it's still helpful and useful information, and it helps us to navigate and guide our ways through our lives, and to be like, yeah, nah, I rock with people that's doing this, that's doing that. And yes, it can be like sometimes you can, it can be mean spirited, and again, that's, I would say, I'm kind of, I frown upon that for the most part. And when I say mean spirited, it's like where we're actually like ridiculing somebody, not having an in-depth conversation about somebody's behavior, but like talking down on somebody, like kicking somebody while they down. You know what I mean? Like that's what we shouldn't do, especially if it's somebody that we do value, or somebody that we once valued. We should not be like kicking people while they on the ground. But like if somebody is doing wrong, or somebody is doing something that's like a little bit questionable, you gonna have that conversation with your friend to see. And sometimes you might come with some information that might be deemed negative, right? And then if you talk about that with your friend might give you some clarity as to like they know the reasoning why this person did something. They can give you even an alternate perspective. Well, like, you say something, and then they'll be like, well, did you ever think about the reason why they did this was because this was going on in this person's life? And then it creates like also another scenario to where it's like, damn, that's true, man. Like I can't really knock this person for doing some of the things that they did, because they were in this predicament, in that situation, right? So yes, like it's not all bad, and men and women do it. Don't front, don't act like you don't. Again, all the stories that you tell about your people, all the stories that you tell about like, and I'm talking about your people, your friends and family, but then also the people that you're interacting with. That's all that would be lumped into gossip, right? Like again, I got a homie that's single, and he telling me about, whatever, his a girl that he's messing with, whatever. Like, all right, that's gossip. You know what I mean, but like, ew, we need that, man, because we need to fact check. We need the Carfax on some of this stuff, right? So don't look at it as something like that. And then people that avoid crowds and avoid interaction because they're worried about that type of stuff. It is keeping you isolated. To be honest, I'm flattered anytime I hear that, even when it's negative, I be kind of flattered like when I hear that my name is in a certain conversation, if it ever comes back to me. Cause I be thinking like, well, damn, yo, you that worried about me? You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Or like, especially when it's good stuff, like, yo, man, I be telling people, man, how dope it is that you have this business, or yo, how dope it is that you going to school to do this, or like how dope it is that yo, your son is the starting quarterback of this team, and then you learn like we teach each other so much through these experiences that we share, and it's something that we should not necessarily frown upon. But yeah, check yourself, man. If it's somebody that yeah, you value and you care about and you feel like the conversation is negative, you can stop the conversation altogether. You can check the person that's talking to you like, "Hey man, like I don't need certain details, but you could, I mean, you could share or just say like, "Hey man, I'm not feeling this, man. I'm gonna see my way out of this conversation." But like take it with a grain of salt, man, and really analyze what you're hearing as opposed to just like reacting. Right. So that's good here. All right. That's a good topic, man. I was feeling that. I was feeling that. There's some other things that we're gonna share probably in the next couple weeks. I have a cool thing about narcissists that we'll share one day. But we'll move forward. We'll move forward. All right. So let's talk about we got our TV show review. All right. And so I finally finished it, man. So I'm gonna tell you about this. So I watched on Netflix. Netflix has a dope series called Monster, and they feature a different notorious like serial killer, right? Or notorious villain of society in some ways, right? So the first season was about Jeffrey Dahmer. The second one was about the Menendez brothers. I did not see that one. And the third one was about Ed Gein. And I saw people talking about this show, and I was like, kind of like, I don't know what they talking about, whatever. But what grabbed my attention was the actor that plays Ed Gein. So the actor is Charlie Hunnam, which is one of my favorite actors from one of my favorite shows, Sons of Anarchy. And Charlie Hunnam don't really do he's been in other things that I'm not necessarily familiar with, but I know him from Sons of Anarchy. And so I'm like looking at like I'm hearing some whispers about what this is, and I know that this guy is some type of like he's a serial killer, right? So, but I'm like, I don't really know his story. I didn't know any background. I didn't do any research going into it. Like I seen one or two things people were talking about, but I was like, I kind of ignored it because I was like, all right, Charlie Hunnam's in it. I'm gonna check it out. I'm just gonna check it out. Yo, this show was it hooked me from the beginning. It hooked me from the very beginning, and this show is disturbing. It's disgusting and it's very deranged. And this is what I'll say is like a lot of shows, Netflix shows, it's natural to binge watch these things. It's natural to just kind of run off multiple episodes at a time. And some people even watch this show like that. This show took me a couple weeks to watch because I can only watch like one episode at a time. Like after I watched the episode, I always had to like take a deep breath and be like, yo, hey, yo, this dude is crazy. Like because the stuff that he was like getting into, it was wild, right? So if you don't know about Ed Gein, right? So Ed Gein was was convicted of some crimes back in like his spree went from like the 40s to the 50s, so probably like 47 to like 57. Let's just give that ballpark, and I may be off by a little bit, but you know. And so he's kind of like a middle-aged man, or he's like an adult, whatever, and he lives with his mother. And his mother is very like domineering. She's a religious zealot, right? She preaches to her son that he should not be interested in women, right? So like she's filling his head, and like in some ways people thought like that's like they trying to humanize, like they a lot of people I've seen that reacted to this show talked about like how they try to humanize this guy again. I don't think they are humanizing it, but like everything has an antecedent, man. Nobody is doing some of the things that he's doing that they're doing without there being some root cause of it. Now, the root cause is he has some mental issues, but also he was raised in this very isolated environment in the Midwest in Plainfield, Wisconsin, to this devoutly and zealoted religious mother, right, who basically forbade him from from she forbade him from having interactions with women, right? Like, and he even had some interests. He had some girls that he liked or whatever, and his mom would always tell him not to, not to do this. Well, what happens is after his mother dies, right? And I won't get into, I'm not gonna give a full summary of this show because you can watch it on your own. I want to focus on more of my reactions. So, but the way this show is, right? Like, it seems like things kind of turn for him when his mother dies, right? And this is when he starts to really have these hallucinations. Um, whether it's things that he's hearing. I don't think he really was seeing things, but it was definitely things that he was hearing. Like, he even believed that his mother was still alive and she was telling him to do the certain things. Well, we find out too shortly into this show that he has some very peculiar kinks, right? Like, he's into certain things. Like, this guy was, helping himself out, I should say, but he was into like asphyxiation. So like, not only was he doing his dizzle, you know what I'm saying, but he was like choking himself out in the meantime. Not to mention, this guy was wearing female lingerie while he was doing it, right? So like, and like, they show or they depict on the show that his mother like catches him and like she shames him and like and makes the issue worse. And you gotta think about it, it's like, bro, he probably wouldn't have been doing half of these things if he lived in a household that was just a little bit more understanding or a little bit more secular, to be honest, because it was just so strict. He didn't have his father in his life. It was just him, his brother, and his mother, right? Um, so yeah, so very deranged, right? Very crazy. Well, this guy, he gets into a spree of not only harming people, so he does harm some people, but what he does is he starts to dig up the graves of people. And then he starts this whole meticulous mission on like kind of recreating the female body, right? And so like he's like, yeah, like he starts with corpses and he's taking their skin off, like different body parts, and he's creating masks with it. He's creating like a bodysuit, right? And it's always women, right? And because he has this like strange peculiar fascination with the female body, but he's doing this like kind of haphazardly, and it gets wild. Like, the show, it gets crazy. But like any instance where they're showing this type of stuff, it's wild. And like all the while, this guy seems like he's on the spectrum, right? Like, he doesn't seem like he's like fully out of it, like he knows what's going on, but like you can tell like there's some type of disconnect where he doesn't register everything. And when you're getting this violent messaging of what you're doing is wrong and you're forbidden to do certain things, I think those behaviors come out in different ways. And like for Ed Gein's case, it came out in very heinous ways, right? So that's the story. The story is like really deranged. Didn't really give you much about it other than like some of the stuff that he does. Wild, right? So what was cool about this show though too was how they were able to tie in that this man was actually the inspiration behind some of Hollywood's biggest horror films ever, right? Like, he was the inspiration behind it, right? So a couple movies that they kind of really point out that he was inspired, and he literally inspired it because the first one was based on his biography, a biography that was done on him. So the first movie that he inspired was Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, right? Another movie that he ended up inspiring was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then he also inspired Silence of the Lambs. So if one thing, and I don't know too much about Psycho, because Psycho was definitely before my time, but if you know anything about Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Silence of the Lambs, is that there's characters in those movies that have an obsession with skin, with people's skin, right? Like, so if you think about Leatherface, right? Leatherface is wearing like someone's actual face on them, right? If you think about Silence of the Lambs, there's that character Buffalo Bill, right? Who's like, talking about it puts the lotion on its skin, right? Like, and just this sick sadistic things like that. Psycho, I think there is like maybe like a cross-dressing like element in there, but like just like this obsession with like harming women. And it was cool how they tied it into that. And like Alfred Hitchcock is actually a character, like, or they make a Hitchcock character in this. And basically, I would say that Hitchcock's inspiration for even making something like that was to basically like shine a light on like some of the darker corners of the mind, right? Like, and trying to make sense of it, right? And trying to kind of show it to the world. And like he was revolutionary. Like Psycho is a movie that like kind of it's like the birth of the slasher film. Like the other horror films back in the day were like Dracula and stuff like that. So it was like ghoul and monster type stuff. No, this was about a human being that was doing some really harmful things to people. And um he kind of inspired that movement. Like we know Alfred Hitchcock as like the father of we know him as the father of like a lot of horror films, whatever. But like he was really into this genre, and he kind of created the slasher, the thriller, the slasher. That's all because of Alfred Hitchcock. And it was because he studied this character and like he wanted to bring him to life. They get into all this, like they get into like the actor that played him and how he was typecast for a long time. And it's really interesting how they are able to tell this story about this man in a fashion, and then they're able to like incorporate scenes from different, like the movie, like these different movies that he inspired, how they're able to kind of incorporate those into like his life, and like how it evolved, how his problem evolved and got worse and worse as time went on. So that was dope. That was dope. In terms of Charlie Hunnam's performance, bro, I got a like 10 out of 10, man. Like this man, like when you look at him as Jax Teller, right? And then you look at him as Ed Gein, night and day, night and day. And I think that like he's actually showing that like he's a really good actor. Like, and he wasn't just playing some motorcycle biker dude, some motorcycle gang dude, you know what I mean? Some biker gang dude. Like this guy actually has acting chops, and he could play different roles because I believed it, bro. Like everything that he was doing, it was the voice, it was the his appearance, it was his mannerisms. Like he killed that role, man. Like he did it justice. Even though I didn't even know who Ed Gein was prior to this, I did look up some photos, and then he did definitely have like a clean shaven cut and stuff like that. Um, and he actually was, it seemed like he was a little bit meticulous about his appearance, but it was kind of crazy like how he was able to bring that to life. Even if you never knew nothing about this guy, like you feel like nah, that's what he did, that's who he is, you know what I'm saying? And I think that he's an established enough actor to where he's not going to be typecast into this. And this is probably a good way to kind of break out of that Jax Teller mode, right? The fact that he can do both roles. I think we're going to start seeing Charlie Hunnam in a bunch of things now. You know what I'm saying? I think this is about to be his little resurgence and rebirth, right? Um, Next thing, I would say that overall, Alfred Hitchcock, like, and I spoke to this earlier, but the reason why, like, I think what this show does, and that's what Alfred Hitchcock was doing, was trying to expose society and expose like our obsession with these different things. And Hitchcock talks about it in the show to where ever since when Hitchcock made that movie, he had ideas for all these others. He had all these other stories that he wanted to tell. And then he kind of got like this was so riveting. it was so pivotal. It stood out so much that Hitchcock, he got pigeonholed into this horror thriller slasher genre, and nobody was interested in anything. And then like he noticed other movies of the same kind of cloth was coming out, and he realized like, damn, like I was trying to expose society, but unfortunately, like I exposed another thing, and I unleashed the beast, and like I fed people this kind of content, and now they're hungry for more. And so like, yes, as people, man, like we all know people that are obsessed with like true crime, like documentaries, and like they get into all this like serial killer stuff and whatever. And there's a time and place for that type of stuff, but like I think the fascination with death is so large now that we have mostly become desensitized to these different things. Like, you know, even me, like I like Saw. Like Saw is pretty gory and sadistic and stuff like that. But like I like it because I don't know that I like it because like I kind of need to know like this stuff exists, right? Even though I don't plan on like kind of like acting it out or anything like that. I need to know that this stuff kind of exists. That's another thing. Going back to the story, what we learn about, because we know that he has some mental issues, right? He ends up become like he is diagnosed with schizophrenia. I'm talking about Ed Gein. But what we learn is that like he was exposed to like really heinous World War II images and propaganda, and like he was unable to discern like what was fake from reality and what was normal from not normal. The fact that he saw it, it made it normal to him. The fact that he saw that it existed, it meant that that's what people do. Some people just do that, not understanding the consequences and how bad that stuff really is, right? So and that's the thing too. Like we have this fascination with it, and the problem is that not everybody can watch and consume certain content without wanting to emulate it. Like there is going to be that element of emulation or that desire to emulate. There's always going to exist that with anything that we consume, like and anything that we consume. So sports, right? Any kid that watches sports wants to be a athlete. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that's into rap music, you either want to be a rapper or you want to live the lifestyle that they're depicting. All those different things. So like emulation is real, but I feel like to the extreme level, people that are not coherent with all their thoughts, they probably should not be consuming that type of content because it could be really detrimental to them and it could lead them to doing some bad things. And then last thing I wanted to talk about was a bunch of things that this show got right and this show got wrong, right? So people did take some exceptions to things that were happening in this show because they felt like he everything that he did was already bad enough. So why are they adding to it? Like why are they like making up stuff? Because I think that's the thing. When any of these bio series come out, there's gonna be directors that take some liberties. You hope that most of it is true. If you're not a historian, it doesn't matter to you as much. As long as it's good, as long as it's entertaining. But there were people that were upset with some of the things that they kind of added to this. But here are the things that they got right and they got wrong, right? So Ed Gein's mother was cruel and domineering. So that is absolutely true. She was this deeply devout religious woman, and like she did instill those negative thoughts about women into his head. Geen was never officially tied to his brother's death. So that's the first person in the show. That's the first person that gets out of here, that checks out. It's his brother. And they're saying that, like, no, even, they say it in the show that he possibly died of a house fire, but like they're saying that, like, no, that's factual, that he never was officially tied to it. I wouldn't put it past him for doing that type of stuff, but it did seem like he did have somewhat of a relationship with his brother. in the show it shows that he's like upset with the brother because he says stuff about their mom, and then he doesn't almost realize what he did, but they're saying that never officially tied to his brother's death. There's a girl in this show called her name Adeline Watkins. At least her real name's Adeline Watkins, but there's a girl named Adeline in there, and this girl is not really his girlfriend, but it's somebody that he's interested in. And what we learn about this girl is that like she's into like all this like dark, creepy stuff as well, and she kind of like puts the battery in his back in some ways in certain scenes in this. So, but and this lady once he was arrested, she was like in the show they're showing that she was like kind of clout chasing and trying to like make a name for herself off of his name because he made all these like national papers and things like that. So Adeline Watkins, though, the real Adeline Watkins denied ever dating Geen, right? She's saying like, no, I like she even though she actually said in an interview that she did know him and that they did date, and then like she retracted it and said like, no, I really didn't know the boy. I think some of that is like a little bit of shame. I think she just didn't want to be associated with it. Um, and then ultimately like tried to deny it. Um, Next one, the Geen farmhouse was a dilapidated house of horrors. So yes, this house was everything that they kind of depicted it to be. This house showed it had no running water, but it made it seem like it was because like he had no income and he had no bills to pay and stuff like that. Like he didn't, and like everything fell by the wayside when his mother died. However, this was actually an old farmhouse. This farmhouse had no indoor plumbing at all, and this house had no electricity at all. So like all the candles and things like that, that's really what it was. And then like yes, when he was collecting all these trophies and all these different things, the house did smell. It was infested with moths and flies and things like that because there was literally rotting things all over the house. You know what I'm saying? So yes, all that was real. Um, Geen was obsessed with a woman called the Bitch of Buchenwald. So, Buchenwald. So again, I said that he kind of was exposed to some like Nazi I don't want to say Nazi propaganda, but like actual like depictions of like Nazi Germany and things like that. And like the real woman, like she went on to trial after the Holocaust and saying she didn't do all these particular things and that it was just propaganda. But again, Geen was obsessed with that woman and like the things that she was doing, the way that she was like um decomposing bodies and deconstruct them and things like that. He was obsessed with that woman, and that was another thing that made it like, yeah, he doesn't know facts from fiction. He doesn't know what's real and what's not real. But he was fascinated with that woman. It said Geen did rob graves and keep trophies. Um, but they said that he's actually not. So what they do, they depict that he's into necrophilia. And if you don't know what that is, you could look it up yourself, right? So they're saying that he and they showed that he was into that. Like he was into like, having relations with dead bodies. You know what I'm saying? However, um it's been shown that like he actually wasn't when he was interviewed a long time ago. Ed Gein said that like the smell was too, it was offensive. Like he was like, no, he never did that. He did a lot of things to bodies, but like he never, had his way with them, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like that's fake. That's all for the show. What else? What else? Um, they said in real life he's only tied to two murders, right? So, and I feel like in the show in limited series they didn't really tie him to a bunch of different stuff. We saw a lot of different people die over the time, but some of those were his hallucinations as well. Here it says authorities never pinned the disappearance of Evelyn Hartley to Geen. So that was the woman that was like the babysitter. And like I don't think they ever truly tied him to that woman in the show either. But like they're confirming that like no, he never was pinned for her disappearance. Geen was a diagnosed schizophrenic. Gein was obsessed with a trans woman named Christine Jorgensen. So one thing that they try to do is, and although there's an element of that in the show, they talk about like trans and stuff like that. What they wanted to let us know was that, and they give a word to it. They say he's a gynophiliac, right? So like a gynophiliac is not necessarily, they don't necessarily want to become a woman, but they have like a weird obsession with the female anatomy to where they want to like be inside of it, right? Like they want to become that. And that's kind of why he was wearing these like weird bodysuits and face masks, because he didn't want to like fully transition. Like he enjoyed being a man, like he didn't feel like he was out of his body, but like he had this like erotic and weird obsession with the female anatomy that like he wanted to just like live in it if he could, and hence what he did. And last thing they said that Geen did not correspond with other serial killers. So in one of the last episodes of the limited series, they show like all these ties to all these different serial killers, and they even try to like tie in the show Mindhunter to it a little bit, and like some of these guys are like villains and real people that were featured on Mindhunter. But like they're saying that like they showed that like he's like corresponding with all these different people, in all these different psych wards and prisons. And they're saying that like no, that like that wasn't even an actual thing. Like that was all made up. Right. So what do you think? Did you watch it? Did you watch the show? If I had to rate it, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I think everybody should, if you're into this type of stuff, you should watch it. Everybody that's not into this should not watch it. And I'm not saying that everybody's into weird stuff, but if you do like horror, if you want to know where certain things are inspired from, how they get these depictions, I hate to say it, he is like kind of like I feel like saying Godfather is like giving praise to him, but like he is the blueprint of a lot of different stories that we see in our horror films, right? So yeah, crazy show, but definitely worth a watch, man. Let's check it out. All right, last topic, last thing before we wrap it up, and we just gotta give a little update, man, to man, my Packers, man, my Packers. So going into the game against Philadelphia, I did not have a lot of confidence because of the way that they lost to the Carolina Panthers. So I didn't have a lot of confidence going into this game. And I would say that for the most part, this team did not really instill any confidence in me as the game went on. So they played the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football at Lambeau Field, and the Packers lose 10-7 to Philadelphia. It was a tough defensive game throughout, and a lot of times those kind of games are good to watch. However, it was not that good to watch. There was no scoring in the first half. It was a 0-0 first half. Even when it was 3-0, it felt like it was 3-0 for a couple of different drives. Ultimately, the Eagles did win. The Eagles went up 10-0 before the Packers answered with a touchdown of his own. And they did have a chance in the last 2 minutes to make some plays. They didn't have their best, they had some injuries, so they did not have their best core of players in the game at that time. But that's not an excuse, because this this was indicative to like some patterns that we've seen all throughout this season. All right. So the Packers now have 3 losses, right? They're 5-3-1. When you look at all 3 of those losses, it's a combined total of 9 points. They've lost, each game that they lost this year was by a field goal, right? They lost. I don't want to say due to special teams, but they lost by a field goal. A field goal. So that's one, but that's less than a possession. That's a half a possession for real, because a touchdown gets that out of here. A touchdown doubles that. You know what I mean? So like it's they're losing by half a possession 3 different times. Each game that they lost, though, the defense played lights out. The defense played good, and the offense left them to dry, right? So this kind of loss, though, unfortunately, some people are fearing that this is the type of loss that can really unravel your team. Losing two in a row, like sometimes, losing becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, man. When that's the case, right? Next week they're going against the Giants. That was a game that I was potentially going to go to, right? I was potentially going to go to a couple different games this year. But yeah, somebody stole my tickets. They ain't really stealing, but like, yeah, they claimed my tickets. And Jackson Dart might be injured. We might be able to bounce back. Again, I just don't have confidence right now, so I'm not gonna make any predictions. But the Packers need to make some changes. When you go back to the Eagles game, things that were wrong during this game, I mean, a lot of people are putting blame on Jordan Love and some of the things that he was doing. However, I put this game and we've put other games on to Jordan Love. Like the Browns loss was because of Jordan Love. The Panthers loss, the Panthers loss and this loss was because of play calling. Um, I would say the tie is because of special teams. So and special teams also was in the first. So the Browns lost to special teams in Love. The tie was special teams. The loss to Carolina was play calling, and this one was also play calling. So even though Jordan Love he didn't throw an interception, he did have a turnover. There were times where it looked like he was holding the ball a little bit too long. But what I say is this, and I've said this in some Packers forums, whatever. It's not Jordan Love's fault. It's not Jordan Love's fault. I would say even though he missed a couple reads and he didn't have a great game. I would say that time and time again, he is not put in he's not put in a place to be consistent. He's not put in a place to be successful, right? Matt LaFleur has this weird obsession with running the ball. Like he almost overruns the ball. We rank we rank sixth in the amount of times that we run the ball, right? But I'll tell you this now, we are not the sixth best team. We're not the sixth best rushing team in the NFL. So I got stats, man. I got stats. So last night they said that we run the sixth most in the NFL, but you know where our rushing offense ranks? 20th. So what that means is that we are not getting the return on the investment when it comes to running the ball. We run the ball the sixth most in the league, but then it's not translating to being the sixth best rushing offense. We're the 20th best rushing offense. So what that tells me is that either it tells me a couple of things. It tells me that the offensive line is struggling in run protection, right, and run blocking. But it also tells me is the play calling needs to change. So there were so many instances in that Monday night game, which I believe in establishing a run. But there were so many instances where we would run the ball 3, 4 times in a row. And like, so just say we would run it 3 times in a row, we would get that first down on first down, we running it again, and it's like, yo, we're not even gashing them. It'd be one thing if it was like 7 yard run, 10 yard run, 4 yard run, 6 yard run. Like if it was plays like that, no, it's like three or it'd be 5, 2 yard loss, and then maybe we get the first down, whatever. But too many times he's giving Jordan Love the ball in bad situations, right? So like if we run it for 2 yard, run it for 4 yards, we lose 2 yards, right? On the next run, now it's 3rd and 8. That's third and long, right? That plays into the defense's hands, right? A team like Philadelphia, who they don't really blitz the passer. What they're going to do is, all right, they're just going to have 4 down linemen and they're going to drop 7, right? So now Jordan Love is passing into tight windows. He might have a one-on-one coverage here, but like somebody's gonna be double covered, if not multiple people double covered. Probably has somebody sitting in zone that's like making it hard for him to attack. And then we're wondering why he's not successful. We've seen Jordan Love is good enough to be not only a starting quarterback, but he's good enough to be the Packers starting quarterback. we've seen too many glimpses and too many times where he's proven his worth. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can say whatever you want about their defense, but he completed 20 straight passes. You don't complete 20 straight passes on anybody if you're not good. Like you cannot, and it wasn't like he was just dinking and dunking. He was diming shit up, right? Jordan Love is a rhythm thrower. He needs to get a rhythm. So like, yes, sometimes we need to start by passing the ball, and like sometimes we don't need to always take a shot. I'm not saying that he makes all the best reads, right? I think he does go through his progressions. There were a couple of times where if he just would have held it a little bit longer, then he would have passed it. But then the catch 22 is that like there's times where he's holding the ball too long. There's times where he's holding the ball too long and then he's getting sacked or he's trying to get rid of it while he's being sacked, and then it's causing fumbles and things like that. So Matt LaFleur has to put the ball in his hands a little bit. He has to put the ball in Jordan Love's hands a little bit more. He has to be a little bit more creative. Because yeah, in the very first half, the first half when we were trying to drop back to pass, like passes were getting deflected and things like that. But it's like because he doesn't have a rhythm. You just ran it 3 4 times, 6 times in a row. Yes, we got a first down out of it, but it's like, yo, let him throw. Let's not just go for a 15-yard, passes downfield. Let's get some intermediate routes. Let's get some of the short routes. And I'm not talking about screens because sometimes even the screens, the bubble screens and stuff like that, it's like, bro, that stuff is outdated. That stuff is not working for us, man. We need to put the ball in our playmakers' hands. There were some glimpses of that, but ultimately it did not pan out. Um, we did have a slight injury to Romeo Dobbs. His chest was hurting, so he was not in on that last drive. Elton Jenkins looks like he has a fracture in his lower left leg, and that's our best lineman. And that's who we moved to center. So like we might have some issues there. The defense played really well though, man. I can't. They didn't get any sacks, but they really rushed Jalen Hurts out the pocket. It's crazy because Michael Parsons be back there, but then he don't always be getting the sack. I do love his pressure. I think that's a good thing, but he needed to get home a couple more times in that game. But like the Eagles were not that impressive to me, but I also know the Packers weren't impressive either to them. But the Eagles did not look like they don't look like that team from last year. They definitely don't look like that team from last year. They were able to be stopped in critical situations, and they gave the Packers a chance to win that game. So I can't. I'm not taking nothing too much away from the Eagles. They won fair and square. I would say though, in the beginning of the game, there was two missed false starts, one by Green Bay, one by Philadelphia. And that's the one thing that I have about this tush push is that what I've seen, anytime they show a replay of the tush push, there's always a false start. There's always a false start. So there's a player safety. I guess that's not player safety. I think that's just integrity of the game. The player safety part comes when we're not calling the play dead. Like we're allowing players to get like a couple extra seconds to fight for extra yards. But like back in the day, I felt like they was blowing the whistle dead like soon as that progress was stopped, right? So like when it comes to the tush push, when it comes to like officiating it, they actually need to get somebody that's a little bit closer to the action, and they need to start blowing the whistle a little bit sooner. And you cannot keep giving this guy leverage to earn more yards, right? But we got burned with the tush pressure a couple times, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I definitely thought that I ain't gonna lie, I came into the game thinking that we was probably gonna get blown out. I'm glad that we didn't. I'm glad that we survived the storm. But yeah, man, we bounced back. We get a chance against the Giants, and then I think we got the Vikings, and then it's Thanksgiving against the Lions. So this is a game that we need to win, and then we got some must wins too because they're divisional games. So we cannot take the foot off the pedal. I think the Vikings are flawed as well. The Lions actually have some flaws as well, and we already beat them. I know they're gonna have a chip on their shoulders, and we are down our best offensive weapon at the moment. But I do still think that we can do some things, but something has to change in terms of improving our team. I think Matt LaFleur needs to look inward a little bit, and I think he does need to start to adjust his style of play. If he wants to keep calling the plays. So first knee-jerk reaction is like, yo, he gotta stop calling plays. Well, yeah, I mean, another thing is to like actually play the game script instead of like coming in with a game plan and thinking like, all right, bet this team is weak at run defense. Let's just run the ball in. No, that's what happens when teams are deficient in an area, right? All you do, and if that's all you decide to do, like they're gonna show up. They're gonna show up. They want to change that ranking bad, so you got to switch it up, man. Pass the ball. Pass the ball. You paid him. Like he's making money, so pass the ball. Use him, man. Use him. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Hopefully we can right the ship, but a loss like this is not the worst loss because again, it was 10-7. It wasn't a big loss, but it's something that we have to use as fuel for the rest of our season, and we got to stop losing these close games, right? But yeah, man, I enjoyed this week's episode, man. I got excited talking about Ed Gein. I got excited to talk about gossip too. Speeding, we talked about speeding. We also talked about intuition versus anxiety. And of course, I'm always passionate and excited to talk about my Packers. I appreciate anybody that's been watching the show as long as you've been watching the show. If you still are tuned in, I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications, please. We already said leave a comment below. Share the content if you know anybody that's into what we're talking about. Good episode, solid episode. I feel like I had really good energy this episode. But yeah, man, it's your boy Los Def. This is episode 214 of the 280 Plus podcast. And I'm out, y'all. Peace.